dig a little bit past the surface and figure out that everything that's within you that has you diminishing those outside of the group that you think you're part of, you're going to have to find that, root it out, and take care of it. That's not impossible. All you have to do is measure them rightly. You have to change your measure of them. Wait, those guys outside this fake line here, those are my equals. It's an artifice to say that they're less than me. So you stop believing the artifice, you believe the truth, and you measure them as your equals outside of you, that their security is as important as yours is. That to them, being secure in their life, liberty, and property is everything to them, and it's everything to you. So all you have to do is love them and love that they would be safe and secure in their life, liberty, and property. And everything that pertains to them, the things that are proper to them should be left proper to them and not taken by someone by improper force. Force is always improper unless it's stopping an actual harm. So their property is their property. You're not going to allow yourself to agree with taking force over their property because you understand that they're your equals and that you don't own them, and that the people that claim to be your masters don't own them either. And then get started on realizing and making it practical in your life that the people who claim to own you and control you and have a right to demand that you obey them, that they don't own you either, and you need to start, and you go and you fix your iniquitous measures that are within yourself that they've trained into you to believe that you're their subject, that you're their servant in any fashion, that they ever can tell you what to do. They never can tell you what to do unless righteousness has been harmed and unrighteousness has been either allowed or, even in institution sense, codified as institutionalized. Those who receive a boundary of exclusion from equal measure are condemned and self-devalued by it. Self-devalued by it. Take heed how you hear unjust valuations, because if you so measure wickedly, you receive the measure you measured, measuring another artificial division of men as less diminishes. Sorry. Let me try that again. The last part of it. You receive the measure you measured, measuring another or an artificial division of men as less diminishes you. Should have been a comma there. The real danger in believing a lie is that it becomes your own condemning judgment. This being arranged as the slaves of a collective forming and operating masters. This being arranged as the slaves of collective forming and collective operating masters and being fed their lies of inequality is designed to harm those it diminishes by using our slaves to kill the outsiders. It's the most abject poverty and lack of righteousness, because obeying such masters causes the slaves to be in truth made nothing, as they parrot the master's lies as their own. If you agree and speak that your collective is superior to those outside, you accuse those outside this imagined artifice to be less than full men, and the inequality of your measure will cause you to receive the measure back of being condemned. When you diminish any of them and hold them as valued as not your equal or less than you, then your diminishing measure of them is measured back to you again as diminished, and you are condemned or diminished in that by the force of your choice to so measure. So, I've said recently, that it's fine to love your country or your church or your creed even, or whatever. It's fine to love that, but the trouble doesn't come from loving it. The trouble comes from loving those outside of it less. And one more quick thing. It won't be much. It's very important. And if you deny the rest of this, this will still help you. Love is not a feeling. God is not expecting you to feel emotions for a billion people. So how does he expect you to love every one of your neighbors as your equal? He does. The reason that works is because love is not a feeling for people. It's not a romantic feeling or a pleasant feeling or any kind of euphoria. When you consider them, the love is the measure of equality to them. The measure of their value to be safe from harm. the measure of their rights, their standing. To measure them in this infinity as equal, that is going to always be a righteous measure. So loving them is measuring them properly. Love is not a feeling. Love is a measure of value. Love is a measure of value. Feelings come from it oftentimes because of the enjoyment of the value of those that you love. And you will learn to love people that you know and that who in interaction between you, that you mutually value each other. Being in love with someone, it can come from that, but it really isn't necessary. Well, if it's being driven by the feelings, the infatuations and everything, we find a lot of problems with people that think the feelings equate to love. What equates to love is the measure of their value. So you feel all kinds of stuff about them, but you don't value them properly, then your love is going to be thwarted because all your feelings aren't going to fix that you aren't treating them rightly. If you measure them and value them as, if you measure a potential spouse as the most important to you and the most valued to you, and your feelings go along with that, that's fine. But that doesn't require you to diminish in your measure the people who aren't your spouse. Like I love my wife and everybody else is less, and they suck and they're condemned in my view because I don't feel anything for them. No one's expecting you to feel anything. They're expecting you to measure them properly, and therefore not devaluing them, not move that they should be diminished or condemned or harmed by anything that you support, and certainly not by your own force. You're not going to not kill a guy or put him in a cage because of your feelings for him. You're going to do it because you measured his value properly, and that you love him as your equal. You measure him as your equal, and that measurement keeps you from that kind of harm. And that's pretty good. It's probably 40 minutes. I wish it wasn't so long, but it can happen. At least I'm out on the porch in the nice weather getting something said again.